And I'm a huge fan of analogies. So I'm going to start with this one. This is something that I've kind of been thinking about as I've been running and walking. I do a lot of thinking while I'm doing those things. I'm always thinking about all of you parents in this group, as well as parents in my programs and other parents that, you know, I get to talk with and support. So who here has ever made pasta by boiling it in water on the stove? You could just type me in the comments if you've ever done that. I'm pretty sure we probably have all done this, right? So if you were making pasta and you didn't add enough water and then you walked away and got distracted, what's gonna happen if you just leave that pot with pasta in it on a hot burner with no water? You can go ahead and tell me in the comments. What happens if you don't add water to a pot that's on a hot burner with something in it? It's gonna go through steps of escalation until it's a full-blown fire, right? So we have seen this lack of water, right, in the pot. We know that it's definitely gonna cause a problem if we choose not to add water, right? But it's not just gonna jump right to a fire, right? There's gonna be warning signs, there's gonna be smells, other clues before the house is burning down. So what are some of the things that we might see, hear, smell if we don't add water? Pop them in the chat. Tell me what would happen. What would we see? Hey, thanks for joining. Talking about leaving food in a pot, like pasta, that's on a hot burner that doesn't have enough water or doesn't have any water in it, and how that eventually would lead to a problem. So what are some things that we would see if we left that pasta in a hot pot with no water? Tell me in the chat. So it might start with a bad smell. Something's burning, right? And then we might get smoke, fire alarms, and if we're still continuing not to do something to prevent further escalation, like adding water, moving the pot, turning off the burner, it's gonna catch fire. We know that, right? Heat plus something else with nothing else to mediate, it's going to catch fire. And if we continue not to address that, it might eventually burn down the whole house, right? So you could type emergency in the comments if you're with me, if you know that that's what would happen if you saw a pot with something in it that didn't have enough water and didn't do anything about it. So who here would do that? If you saw a pot with pasta on a hot burner with no water, would you just watch it go through all of these stages without doing anything about it? Would you just walk away? Would you ignore it? You're not going to do that, right? None of us here are going to do that because we know how to stop that from happening, right? We know that if we add water, we know that if we turn off the burner, we know that if we move the pot, that's going to prevent a fire. And that's important, right? To prevent a fire. So type just add water in the comments if you would do something about that. And we all would, right? So the whole point of this analogy is to share with you that the pasta in the pot on a hot burner without water is the perfect analogy for a child with skill deficits. Okay? Deficits like lack of a functional form of communication to get their wants and needs met. Deficits like lack of social skills, like responding to name or bids for attention. Right, Elena? Just add water. We can add water. Lack of social skills like responding to name or bids for attention. Having no tolerance for daily life occurrences like transitions, interruptions, being told no, changes in routine. Not having the skills to cooperate with directions being given. not being able to use all of these skills to live their life. So type that makes sense, if that makes sense to you. Can you see the analogy here? So maybe right now, your kiddo is easygoing and content. They're super happy, spinning things, going along with whatever, lining their stuff up, scripting, whatever it may be. And they just kind of go along with things, and you can manage and navigate without too much trouble when they're younger, right? When they're small, when they're young. They're little, so tantrums are acceptable and expected right now. It doesn't hurt if they're hitting, kicking, and throwing things yet because they're small. But eventually, that's gonna change. Type growing up is hard if you know that your kiddos are gonna grow up, they're gonna get bigger. And if these behaviors don't change, we don't build these skills, that is a pot that is on a hot burner with no water in it. So without skills like communication, social skills, tolerance, and cooperation, and being able to use those skills, things are going to get harder and more frustrating for them. Can you imagine not being able to communicate your wants and needs? Not being able to get your point across? Growing up is hard. Not being able to communicate is, I cannot even imagine what my behavior would be like if I did not have communication and social skills and tolerance to things that happen in life. I'd be a mess. I mean, think about what that must be like. So things that were expected and manageable when they were little, like tantrums and crying and throwing and hitting, they're now getting to be a bigger problem, right? It can even become dangerous. And it definitely becomes a barrier to living a full life. For sure. There's going to be things that they're not going to be welcome at because it could be dangerous or highly disruptive. There's going to be things that maybe they are welcome to join, but they can't because they can't tolerate unpredictability or changes or interruptions or transitions, and they don't have those skills. There's things that they're not going to be able to do if we don't build those skills up. So maybe it's starting to get smoky with lots of crying, yelling, refusing. And then the alarms start to go off with bigger and longer and louder tantrums and screaming and more crying and throwing and hitting and kicking. And one day you realize you're all stuck in a house that is on fire. And you're constantly working or walking on eggshells. You can't manage any of it. You feel stuck, you feel overwhelmed, you feel stressed out, you feel helpless, and you can't do anything. Type stuck, if that makes sense to you. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling for you. It's not a good feeling for your kiddo or feeling. It's not good for your whole family. Being stuck is not a good place to be. It's not a fun place to be at all. Especially when you feel like everything is completely out of control. But the good news is you can prevent that. Just by adding water to the pot, just like you would do if you saw that pasta in that pot on that burner with no water. You would put water in the pot. You would add water. And the skills that you can teach your kiddo, they're the water. Right, Elena? Elena's saying that we barely leave the house. You know? It's hard. There's just so many things, you know, it's just such a barrier to life, to living life. Right? And that's so hard. So you can help that and you can prevent that. And so, like I said, adding the water, that's the skills. That is building those life skills like functional communication, you know, social skills, the tolerance. Tolerance is a huge one. I would say communication and tolerance are probably the biggest ones, because Life is unpredictable. The only constant in life is change. And if you can't, or your child can't, tolerate change, that's like huge, right? So I've worked with so many families that have gotten to this point because of wait lists or falling through the cracks. They don't have the right diagnosis. They can't get in for an evaluation. They can't get in for comprehensive services. Whatever it may be, that's why I offer families just like yours a way to add water to the pot. Build those skills as soon as you notice that the water isn't in there anymore, that it's burned off, that enough wasn't added to begin with, whatever it may be. So as soon as you notice that there's something going on with your kiddo, you deserve and need the support to help add water and build those skills. So who would love to add water? Building functional communication, building social skills, building tolerance to things that happen in life, building cooperation, and making sure these skills can actually be used in a meaningful way to better your child's life in a way that makes sense for your whole family, to break down all those barriers and open doors to live the life they want to live and the life that your family deserves. So don't wait until there's smoke and alarms and fire. Put water in the pot now. You've already noticed that the water's gone. Maybe there's even smoke or alarms going off already, but you can still add water. So this is exactly what my programs offer you. It offers you an exact path on how to build those skills and all the support you need to do it. And I will be with you every step of the way in helping you help your child build the skills that make these challenging behaviors unnecessary. You do not need to wait until your life is in constant crisis. Now, right now, is the time to get support and help that your kiddo needs to build these skills so they can stay the happy kiddo that's living their best life. Don't wait until there's problem behaviors. Don't wait until you're in crisis. Act when you know that there's a need. So I really, really hope that you take some time to think about this analogy and how it, relates to your life and to your kiddo, and know that you and your child and the rest of your family deserve the support to build these skills and add the water. Okay? And if you're interested, I am happy to chat with you about my program, and I hope that you reach out to chat so that I can help you add the water and help you build these hugely important life skills. I hope you have a great day.